Hi everyone, welcome back to Move Wilder. My name is Hannah and today I'm going to take you through a 30-minute Pilates class, especially for hockey players. Hockey is a non-stop cardiovascular sport requiring a lot of stamina and breath control. One of the key principles of Pilates is breathing. We look at how we can use diaphragmatic breathing control to improve the efficiency of our cardiovascular system. In hockey, where we're being challenged from the minute the whistle blows on making sure that we're breathing correctly so that we get oxygen into those muscles and get that body fueling properly, this is going to really be beneficial for your hockey game. Pilates builds strength from the deep stabilising muscles outward. This approach builds a strong, resilient body that can handle the twists, turns and punchy moves of a hockey game. Join me for this 30-minute mat Pilates session where we're going to look at building a balanced body ready for the pitch. Let's get going. I'm now going to take you through standing alignment. So you're going to bring your feet together, heels come out and then toes come out to meet them. From here, we're just going to take a little rock backwards and forwards, so just feeling where the weight is in your foot and then slowly bringing yourself to a standstill where that weight is evenly balanced between your heel and your toe. Once you've come to here, we're going to think about moving the weight into the outside of the foot so that the knees track the toes, keeping them soft. Then just a gentle tuck and tilt to keep an eye on where you're placing that pelvis. And we're going to slowly make that movement slower until your tailbone is pointing down towards the floor, restacking those vertebrae, growing towards the ceiling. Next, we're going to make sure the arms are staying next to your sides, so your shoulder blades are coming back and down, just to give those shoulders a little wiggle. And then next, we're going to go through the pelvic floor, core, and breathing. So as we inhale, we're going to feel that rib cage expand into the sides, back and front. The diaphragm moves down and so does the pelvic floor. As you exhale, you're thinking about pulling your ribs to hips and pulling in the pelvic floor. So we're thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, we're going to inhale, feel that rib cage expand, and then exhale, draw those ribs in, engage that pelvic floor, thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Again, inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Inhale, release, and exhale, engage. Couple more breaths here with me. There's quite a lot of information to take in with the breathing, core and pelvic floor and how it works together. So don't panic if you can't nail this today. This is something that we're going to work on as we move through the course. Just keep thinking, I need to be breathing as I'm exercising, and keep thinking about pulling in those pelvic floor and core muscles at the same time. So pelvic floor, sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone. Core, we're thinking rib to hip, hip to hip, belly button to spine. And now we're ready for our workout. I'm now going to take you through a neck strengthening exercise. So you're going to bring your right hand to the right hand side of your head, and we're going to push our head into a hand for up to 15 seconds. Once you finish, you're going to move your hand to your forehead and push your head forward into your hand again for up to 15 seconds. And then we're going to move to the left hand side, pushing your head into your hand for 15 seconds, feeling that work in your neck. And then we're going to move to the back of the head, pushing the head backwards into the hand, again holding this for up to 15 seconds. Once we've gone round one time, we're going to start again, so 15 seconds to the right hand side, feeling that work in your neck, and then to your front, sitting up nice and tall, shoulder blades remain relaxed as you're pushing into the hand. Then we're going to move to the left, push your head into your hand, and then to the back of the head, pushing the head into the hand. So what we're going to do now is go into a stretch. So you're going to bring your chin to your chest. You're going to bring your hand on the front of your chin, get hold of the back of your head with your other hand and push your head up and forward. So we're stretching out through the back of the neck. We're holding this for somewhere between 10 and 20 seconds, depending on how nice the stretch feels. Does it feel quite tight? If so, maybe hold it for up to 20 seconds. If it feels quite loose, then you could do it for a little bit less. And we're just trying to mobilize through the neck and into the upper back. Once you've finished, coming into your rest pose. Next, we're going to do a lunge with rotation. So starting in your neutral spine position, stepping forward with your right leg, and then we're going to rotate that upper body over the right leg, making sure your hip, knee and foot stay in alignment as you rotate. We're going to hold that rotation for somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds and then swap to the other side. This is a really good exercise for building strength in your legs, as well as improving that rotational mobility of your thoracic spine. Every time you step out into your lunge, making sure that your foot, knee and hip stay in alignment. Coming into a low lunge, or as low as you feel is right for you. So you can feel those legs working, but you can keep going and maintain good balance throughout the move. Lunges are a really good exercise for working the legs independently. So you'll know here if you've got a side that is more tricky, and that's probably the side that's slightly weaker, so you can then work on that. So this is a really good way of telling if you've got a side that feels less balanced. This is probably the side you need to work on, and the side of your body that's weaker. As you rotate over that front leg, keeping that knee tracking your toe, make sure that that knee doesn't fall in. If you need to make the steps smaller so that you feel more balanced, that's always an option. Holding that lunge and then pushing back to standing. And we're nearly at the end of our set. So you should really start to feel this in the legs. This is a great exercise for building strength around the knee joint and around the pelvis. Also building core strength, keeping that core switched on as you rotate. Building that lovely mobility through the thoracic spine. You're doing really great. We are nearly at the end of our set. Stepping forward, see if you can get lower for these last couple of lunges. We're going to see if we can go a little bit lower. It's my challenge for you. Get a little bit lower for the next couple. And then once you've finished, coming into your rest pose. Now I'm going to take you through a nice exercise for building strength in your lower back. So we're going to stand in the band, feet hip distance apart, arms are gently resting by your side shoulder blades, melting down your back. And we're just going to bend to start with from side to side. You could also do this with weights in your hand if you wanted to. Just pick a weight that you feel is an acceptable weight for the strength you've got in your lower back. So don't pick something that's really heavy to start with, because we're doing quite a few reps of this. So pick something that you feel is a manageable weight if you're using a weight instead. Then what we're going to do is start to lift and lower the elbow, as you'll see in the video. So we're bringing in some arm work here as well, still staying on that side plane of movement, so bending from side to side. Lower back strength is really important for maintaining good posture and having a good position on the bike. So if you do get lower back pain, it might be that your lower back is weak, and we need to work on strengthening not only the core but also the lower back, and this is a good way of doing that. Once you've finished, coming into your rest pose. I'm now going to take you through the QL stretch. You're going to sit with your feet just further than hip distance apart. Take your right hand under the inside of your right leg. Rotate your body away to the left and bring your left arm up and over your ear and point it towards your toes. We're going to hold this position for 30 seconds. You should maintain a seated position with your sit bones stuck to the floor throughout your hold, and you should feel this stretch in your low back. Once you've done 30 seconds, you're going to come back to the neutral. Left hand goes under your left knee, and then you're going to rotate your body to the right and bring your right hand over towards your left toes, keeping your elbow over the top of your ear, so you're getting that nice stretch through the back of your back. Again, we're going to hold this for 30 seconds. Once you've done your 30 seconds, coming back up to a seated position. I'm now going to take you through swimming on your front. So we're going to lay down on your front, bring your arms stretched out in front of you, and then we're going to lift the opposite arm and leg. As we do so, we're going to engage our core. So we're thinking about pulling our hip bones together, our ribs down towards our hips, and we're gently going to move from side to side, really stretching out through that arm and leg as you go. This is really good for building strength in the muscles in the backside of your body. Making sure you're not pushing your belly down into the mat. What we're going to do now is take a couple seconds rest, and then we're going to go into a flow set. So we're going to bring the opposite arm and leg up, and then we're just going to flow from side to side. So as before we were stopping and pausing as that arm and leg lifted, now we're just flowing from side to side. As you'll see in the video, it's not necessarily that it's faster, we're just moving from side to side, keeping that core engaged. So we're thinking about drawing those ribs down towards your hips. And then once you're finished, we're going to come back into our child's pose. We're going to hold this for your own count of 15 seconds. And then coming back into our rest position. We're now going to go through shoulder bridge, which is one of my favourite exercises. So we're going to come to laying down on the mat. Feet are hip distance apart, pelvis is in neutral, and arms just gently resting on the floor. Turning your palm up if you feel like you're going to push your hands down into the mat. We're then going to take a gentle inhale, and then on your exhale, you're going to slowly roll up by each vertebrae at a time until you're at the top of your bridge. At the top of your bridge, you should feel the weight in your shoulders and your feet, not in your neck. We're going to hold it there for an inhale, and then slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, we're going to pop those vertebrae back down onto the floor until your pelvis rolls into its neutral position, where that little gap is behind the lower back, but you're not arching your back. Holding at the top for an inhale, and then exhale slowly back down. Shoulder bridge is a great move for building mobility of the spine, so it's going to gently move the spine and mobilize those facet joints. Keep pushing down into your toes as you roll up and down. This is going to help to engage those hamstrings, get them involved, get those muscles working. You should also feel this in your glutes as well. And once you're finished, we're going to hug the knees into your chest, give yourself a little back rock for your own count of 10 to 15 seconds, and then come back to sitting. This next move is cat flap letterbox, which is a great core exercise. So we're going to come to lying down on our backs. Feet are hip distance apart. flat on the floor. Pelvis in neutral, so just take a gentle tuck and tilt if you need to bring that pelvis into neutral alignment where there's just a small gap under that lower back. You can check that with your hand. Palms are facing up so you can't push down into your upper body, and your knees are going to be above your hips, so we're keeping our legs in what we call our tabletop position. Going to take an inhale, and then on your exhale you're going to engage your core and pelvic floor and stretch the leg out as if you were going to put your foot through the letterbox on your front door. Going to inhale, hold it there, and then exhale, come back to the center. Going to inhale there, prepare, exhale. This time we're going to place the foot through the cat flap, so we're bringing that leg lower. That's the more harder position. So thinking about, as you extend that leg out, what's happening in your belly. So making sure your ribs stay in contact with your hips. So rib to hip connection is really important here. Pulling those hip bones into the middle. Again, we're going to hold that for an inhale and pause, and then exhale back to the center. You can alternate legs if you need to make this slightly less challenging. You could also do this with one leg in tabletop instead of two, which again would make it less challenging if you're finding this quite difficult. I really want you to think about that position and the use of your core here. We're really working those core muscles hard. And once you've finished one leg, we're going to move to the other leg, exactly the same. So exhale, taking the leg away from the body, up as if you're going to post your foot through the letterbox, holding for an inhale, and then exhale, returning to your starting tabletop position. Inhaling in the middle to prepare, exhale, taking the leg lower, thinking about that rib to hip, so pulling your ribs down towards your hips, keeping hold of that connection, pulling those hip bones into the middle, switching on that pelvic floor, so thinking sit bone to sit bone, pubic bone to tailbone to do so. Making sure that little gap behind your low back doesn't increase in size, so it should stay small because your back should remain in its neutral position and just the leg moves. Once you finish, taking a full body stretch and then returning to your sitting rest pose. I'm now going to take you through the rotator cuff strengthening exercise. So we're going to bring the band up in front of you. Top of your arm is staying close to your body. Palms are up, and we're going to pull the band out to the side. Hold it there briefly and then just gently release back. We're going to do 5 like this, where we're just keeping that movement continuous. Pulling the band out. If you need to make it harder, less band in the middle. If you need to make it easier, put more band in the middle. This time we're going to hold it out there and do 5 little pulses. So we're just pulsing to the side for 5, and now we're going to 4 without pulses. This is really good for building strength in those upper back muscles. And then we're going to do 4 little pulses, and then 3 without pulses. Keeping those arms close to your body, 3 little pulses this time. And 2 without pulses. We are nearly there. Probably feeling this by now. If you need to make it easier, more band in the middle, 2 little pulses. And final 1, and final pulse. And then give those shoulders a roll. Excellent, well done. Returning to rest pose. This next move is noughts and crosses. We're going to come down onto our side, hip and shoulder in a line. And then you can bend your bottom arm and bring it under your head to support the neck, making sure your head is in line with the rest of your spine. Top hand on the floor for some support and bend the bottom leg if you need to. And then we're just starting with a circle. You can make your circle as big as you like, as long as you're not rocking your hips from side to side or pushing your side down into the mat, making that gap between your rib cage and your hips smaller. Once we've done circles in each direction, we're going to bring the leg down to the front, back to hip height, up to the back to hip height, up to the front, back to hip height, down to the back to hip height. Maintaining a nice strong core throughout this movement, so thinking rib to hip, especially as you take the leg backwards, because it's when that leg goes back behind you, you're going to feel like you're being pulled backwards. As you take the leg forward, making sure you're not rolling the pelvis forward as well. Only making your cross as big as you can keep your core engaged and working hard to keep your trunk nice and still. Once you've done one side, rolling over onto the other side. So hip and shoulder in a line, top leg raises, and we're starting with that circle. Keeping your circle under control, nice steady speed to our circles, trying not to let your pelvis roll around. Chin stays lifted, make sure you're not looking down at the ground. Once you've done your circles in both directions, we will move on to our crosses. And for that cross, we're going to bring the leg down to the front, back to hip height, up to the back to hip height, up to the front, down to the back. Try not to swing the leg. Try and really control the movement, but keep it nice and fluid so the leg continues to move. You should really feel this in the outside of the leg. This is a great one for building strength around the hip. And once you're finished, coming back to your rest pose. This exercise is hip flexor strength. So we're going to come to sitting on your sit bones, Bring your legs to one side of an object, and then we're going to slowly lift and lower the legs over the object. Now I'm using a kettlebell here, but it doesn't have to be a piece of gym equipment. It could be a football, it could be a water bottle. It really doesn't matter what it is. The more important piece of information is what is happening to your back as you lift that leg over. You shouldn't be leaning back. If you are, I want you to try and sit up nice and tall. Imagine someone's got a piece of string from the top of your head and they're pulling you up towards the ceiling. Keeping that core switched on, so we're thinking rib to hip connection here. This is a great exercise for building strength in the hip flexors, and weakness in the hip flexors can cause back pain, hip pain, and also tension when you're doing exercises where you need to extend through the hip flexors. So what we're going to do here is build strength in those hip flexors, which is going to allow for better stability and muscle balance around the pelvis. Once you have done your set, we're going to come into our rest pose. I'm now going to take you through a really nice hip flexor stretch. So we're going to come onto our knees. So if you need to, rolling the mat up a little bit so that you've got more cushion under the knee joint is definitely a good idea. Then we're going to take a step forward with the left foot, keeping your pelvis underneath you, glutes engaged. We're going to push forward into that bent leg and keep your chest lifted. We're holding this stretch for around 30 seconds. We're then going to bring the right arm up and over and stretch out to the side. So you might find that this changes where you're feeling the stretch. You might get it more in your abs, around the side of your hip. That's absolutely fine. And again, we're holding this for 30 seconds. We're then going to change to the other side. So bring the right leg forward, keep your pelvis underneath you, push forward into that bent leg, feeling the stretch in the front of the hip for 30 seconds. And then bringing the left arm up and over so that you can feel the stretch in your side, maybe a bit in your abs, like I said, as well. Once you've held this for 30 seconds, we're going to return to our rest pose. For this exercise, you are going to need a kettlebell or a water bottle or something that you can pass from side to side. We're going to sit up nice and tall, tuck your chin and gently roll your spine back so you're in a C-curve position. And then we're going to rotate through the mid-spine, take the object to one side, place it on the floor, and then rotate back to the center. And then we're going to rotate back out again, pick up the object and come back to the middle. If you are doing this with weight, make sure you're using a weight that is suitable for your muscle strength. You're not using something that's really too heavy. but also not using something that maybe is too light and you can kind of throw it around. You should feel the resistance there if you are using weight. If you are just using a water bottle or a cushion, then obviously this is going to be slightly easier. What you could do to make it a little bit harder is just lean yourself back a little bit further. And this is a great exercise for building rotational strength. If you're looking to make this a bit harder still, you can lift both legs up off the ground and just rotate from side to side without the kind of rest of putting down the weight. If this gets too hard, or if you find this is uncomfortable on your lower back, please do come back down to our previous version. Once you've finished all of your set, you can come back to our rest pose. I'm now going to take you through an abdominal stretch. So it's probably not somewhere you've thought about stretching before. So what we're going to do is turn onto our fronts, going to come into like a sphinx pose. So pushing up onto your hands, getting a little bit of a gentle back bend here as well. And you just feel a light stretch in those abdominal muscles. The reason we want to stretch the abdominal muscles is because it helps maintain that muscle balance between the back and the front of our body. If there is any discomfort in the lower back whilst you're doing this, then please do leave this move out, which is going to support better core function. Once you've held this for somewhere between 20 and 30 seconds, you can then come back into your rest pose.